I'm with Gento, and good to have you at London Spirits Competition, Gento. Thank you so much for making it. Why don't we start with knowing more about you?
My name is Gento. I started bartending in Japan. I'm from Japan originally. I've been bartending for past 8 years. I started my career in Tokyo, Ginza, and then I trained myself as a Japanese, in a Japanese style of mixology. And then I moved to Australia and then Singapore. I was there for 6 years, and then I moved to London 1.5 years ago. And then I've been working so far as a bartender in London.
Great. So again, I was going through your profile. So it looked you moved from Tokyo to Sydney to Singapore to this. I believe you started with culinary before moving to bartender. So what was that journey about?
After I finished my study in university, I decided to become a chef. And then I wanted to travel around the world. That was actually one of the biggest reasons I chose to become a chef. And then at the same time, I started going to a bar, started to know about cocktails, finding bartending as interesting as cooking. And then I gave it a try, and then slowly found my passion in this industry, and then I changed my career.
Great. So lately you have been a lot of Japanese mixology and Japanese drinks. You have been involved there a lot. So would you mind telling us what is it? Like, how do you define when it comes to Japanese mixology or something to go with it?
Well, so I think there are different style of mixologies all around the world. American style, European style, Japanese styles. But in my opinion, what's typical about Japanese bartending is emphasis on details. While we are making drinks, we pay really small attention to details. So sometimes during the service, we focus more on the cocktail making rather than the speed of service. As much as possible. Of course, we always try to balance both sides, but we tend to put more strength on making every single drink as perfectly as possible. Yeah, of course, hospitality-wise, I think it's quite similar to other bartending styles or any other hospitality styles, but well, I think it's more about
the process, I believe.
Process, and then attention to details. Those points.
So tell us more about any one process of how to make Japanese spirit. Something which is very common, something which is very famous. You have been using it lately.
Well, I think what's typical about Japanese bartending, and then attention to the ice that we use. In Japan, the ice industry, ice makers are everywhere in the world. So in your town, you will probably find one ice making company.
Like a manufacturing setup?
Yes, manufacturer, which are usually family owned with a long history. They manufacture crystal clear ice, big block of ice, and then they tailor make the ice blocks, the ice that's fit to the guest's request. So some bars want some specific size of ice. Some bars want the ice to be in a specific shapes. They usually tailor to your request very nicely. And then the quality of ice, of course, the big parts of the cocktail is
the bartending process
consists of the ice actually in a glass. So emphasis on ice and the quality of the ice that we use is, I think, one of the biggest points that we care about.
Great. So let's go more towards the consumer side. So which are the regions that you usually source your spirits from when we talk about Japanese bartending?
Bartending in Japan is, of course, coming from Western culture.
Okay.
So in Japan, we import a lot of products from overseas countries.
Okay.
Of course, we have a big, spirits and alcohol brands in Japan, but in cocktail industry, bar industries, I think we import a lot of stuff. Majority of the stuff from overseas countries.
Okay. All right.
And then in Japan, we have a strong culture of appreciating Scotch whiskies.
Okay.
I think mainly because Japanese whiskey industries were born in Scotland.
And do you see the same here in UK as well? I think you have been put up in Mayfair, right?
Yes,
Kwānt?
in Kwānt. We're
Kwānt,
joining
yeah.
in Kwānt in Green Park, Mayfair. So I moved to London almost 2 years ago, and then I expected the Scotch whiskey culture will be more popular here, but
Okay.
not as much as I thought, to be honest. Maybe because it's geographically too close to each other.
Correct.
Or maybe Scotch is now, people in the older generation. I don't know, but it's not as spread as I thought.
So I saw you have been into a lot of cocktails, like kakagori cocktails or something like that. You have been
Yeah,
involved in.
Yes, I've done shaving ice cocktails when I was managing Japanese concept.
Okay.
Company.
And in Kwānt, is it going to be the same for you, or
No,
is
no,
it?
not at all. Kwānt will be led by Eric Rollins.
Correct. Yes.
We will be, as the name suggests, Kwānt means antique, old style, classy.
All right.
So we will be cocktail focus, but
Okay.
we will serve some small food as well with good vibes. It's under construction now, coming up soon.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
yeah.
So 2 quick questions when it comes to Japanese bartending. What sort of food we usually see people pair up when it comes to Japanese spirits?
Good question. If you're thinking about the situation where you're drinking Japanese, let's say whiskeys, in a bar, it always paired with the dry food, dry snacks, bar snacks basically.
Okay.
And bar snacks in Japanese cocktail bars in Japan are usually complimentary.
Okay.
So it's more like having nibbling the snacks with sipping.
So like finger
whiskeys.
foods, you mean?
Finger
Like
food,
something-
yes.
Yeah.
Cheese, nuts and olives, those stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
something quite
But
basic.
anything in terms of the food that goes well, maybe some sort of a dish. Or
Well,
some sort
I think
of,
what's typical in Japan and not so much here is I think this bar snack called resin butter. Have you tried it?
I've tried it in bento once, but I'm not sure whether
it's a resin butter. It's usually sometimes if you go to a cocktail bar, it's homemade. So melting a butter, mixing resin, dry resin, wrapping it into a long shape, cut into pieces.
Okay.
It's usually served on shaved ice.
Okay.
And then
nice.
with a stick. It really goes well with whiskeys usually.
Very good.
Yeah, so it's
Great.
quite typical in Japan, I think.
Amazing. When you see people who are into this industry of cocktails, into this industry of sourcing spirits, what do you usually see in a new brand? Let's say we are talking about Kwānt. So you are going to open it. There is a different responsibility that you are going to have where you have to source new products and see what is going to work with your menu or anything. So what sort of things that you keep in mind when you see a new brand?
Well, I think first of all, quality of the spirits, quality of the product comes first.
Okay.
Yes, we can't make a decision without tasting the product itself, of course.
Okay.
At the same time, I think we focus on the branding as well, branding of the product, whether it goes along with our own brand as well as a bar.
Understood.
So yeah, it's we think about those points.